Good morning. How many of you were here at sunset for the Sunday morning worship assembly? Let me see the hands of those that were here. Quite a number were not here for Sunday morning, and so Charles and I felt it would be good to repeat the announcement that was made Sunday morning for this group, and then maybe talk and discuss that announcement just a little bit so that this group will be well informed. As some of you may know, I've served as the president of Sunset International Bible Institute for the last 23 years. I have felt very blessed to be a part of this ministry and to be a part of the leadership of this ministry for that time. Klein Payton was the founder of this school and the director and president of this school for 31 years. In 1993, he handed the baton of leadership to me, and I have served in that role since 1993. But I feel, and the board of directors of this school and others that I've discussed this with feel that now is the time for us to begin the process of looking for someone to whom I can hand the baton of leadership for the next generation. We're not in a hurry to do this. In fact, we're going to do this over kind of a 2-year period of time. It'll be a smooth, gradual transition to the next president and the next leadership. But having a well thought out, well organized succession plan is both wise and, for that matter, essential to the health and the longevity of any organization. And that's why we're doing it now. SIBI is healthy and strong. There's nothing wrong here. There's no crisis. And as far as I know, I have relatively good health, good strength, and there's no crisis on my part. Nobody is saying, you got to get out of here, get that old guy out of here so that somebody new, somebody young can get... Nobody's saying that as far as I know. And so I'm not in a hurry to do anything, but we've got to be wise about this. We need to have a plan that is well thought out and well executed. I got a phone call last night from an alumnus from back in the 90s. And that alumnus said, Truitt, I got a text message from someone that said, you're resigning and you're leaving the school. Is that true? Are you sick? Is there something wrong? What's going on? Well, I had to explain to this man that no, none of that is true. We just announced on Sunday morning a transition plan. It's a well thought out plan. It's going to take a couple of years, and there's no crisis. Nobody's sick. Nobody's fired. Nobody's in a rush to do anything. And SIBI is healthy and strong, and there's no problem here. The board of directors of this school, as most of you know, and if you don't know, you need to know now, the board of directors of this school is composed of the elders of this congregation here at Sunset, and that's been true for many, many, many years. And they've done a good job. And that eldership has changed, transitioned in itself. In fact, in 1993, when Klein Payton handed the baton of leadership to me, there were about as many elders maybe a few more actually than we have right now, but none of them were the same as they are now. There's been a complete turnover in the last 23 years in our eldership here at Sunset, but the values of this congregation haven't changed. The mission hasn't changed. The relationship with SIBI and our board of directors, the elders, has not changed. And if it's changed at all, it's just gotten better. And so there's no crisis here. Any organization, any church, any school, any organization must transition its leadership for the next generation. If we don't, then that organization is doomed to die. And so we've had a good transition in the past. It was very smooth between Klein and myself and seamless, and it helped the school to grow and develop over the last 23 years, last couple of decades. And we're thankful for that. And what I want to say to all of you students is, if I thought that I could do this job for the next 25 years, I wouldn't be making this announcement. I'd just stay where I am. But this school needs leadership that can do the job for the next 25 years. And so that's what we're planning for. We want to put someone in place that has enough years ahead of him that he can do kind of what I've done, and that is guide and lead this school for more than 2 decades. And that's what this school needs. We're not at the height of our ministry. Things are going well here, but they could go better. And there's the challenge of a new generation and new horizons out there. This school needs to just keep getting better and stronger and keep growing and keep influencing more and more of our world. And that's why we need to transition to somebody that can lead this school even for the next 25 or 30 years. Now, since this is a 2-year process, most of you won't be here when this process culminates. You're going to be here during the transition when we may be talking about it, and we may be interviewing some people down the road in some months ahead of time. But the final appointment of the next president is not scheduled to happen until about this time of the year in the year 2018. Now, some of you may still be around here, but most of our students will have gone on to other things by then. So what I'm saying is, you're probably not going to notice a lot of changes around here during your tenure here. I'm going to continue to serve as the president of this school, Lord willing, and considering that maybe my health will hold out and things will continue on for the next few years, you won't see a lot of changes. But eventually, changes do need to be made in the leadership of this school. And even after that change is made, I have no intention of leaving the Sunset Congregation or Sunset International Bible Institute. I plan to serve as the school's second chancellor. When Klein handed the baton of leadership to me, and I became the president of the school, he became the chancellor of the school. Klein died 9 years ago. And so this school has been without a chancellor, and really in the last year of his life, even the last couple of years, he wasn't able to serve. And so for at least a decade now, this school has been without one aspect of leadership that is very important, and that's the chancellor of the school. Now, if you're wondering what is a chancellor and what does a chancellor do, well, we'll get to that later on. We'll talk about that down the road. This change, however, even though it's in the future a little ways, this change does represent a significant change. A significant change for me, for my family, for Kay. And Miss Kay has been a wonderful influence in the lives of our faculty and students here. And this is going to be a change for her, for me, and for SIBI. So keep this in your prayers, but don't wring your hands and worry about it, okay? And don't send anybody that text message saying, oh, everything's falling apart here at SIBI, you know. None of that is happening. This is well organized, and it's under the Lord's control. And as I said to our congregation on Sunday, the best days of SIBI are ahead, not behind. That's the thing that we need to understand. I just thought we might process a little bit here in the last 5 minutes or so that we have. Does anybody have any questions about any of this? Any thoughts that you'd like to share, just by way of discussion? Feel free to ask anything you like, or to make any comment that you'd like to make. How do you get folks stirred up, Thomas? Everybody's sitting here like zombies. Yes, Tim?
Who is it that's going to be guiding this process? Who's involved in trying to determine who this God-designed institution will be?
The elders have appointed a transition committee. And that transition committee is composed of some of the leaders of this school. Virgil Yoakum, who has headed up the extension department since 1973. Virgil's on that transition committee. Brad Pruitt, our CFO, is on the transition committee. Monty Pettyjohn, our pulpit minister, is a part of the transition committee representing the Sunset congregation. Representing the eldership will be two of our elders, Bob Crockett, who serves as the chairman of the board of SIBI, and Gary Walker, who serves as the vice chairman of the board of SIBI. Both elders in the Sunset congregation will serve on the transition committee. We wanted to have a group of businessmen that have served this congregation as what we call the Sunset Council. We have about 40 men scattered across the country that are advisors to us. And one of them, named Mark Samsel, is also going to be serving on the transition committee. And Mark's an elder of the church in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, the College Hill Church of Christ, and a great, great godly man. He'll serve on that transition committee. And then one of our alumni, a well-respected brother in one of the largest congregations in our brotherhood, the Greenville Avenue congregation. He has served as a minister there for a couple of decades and longer than that. His name is Ben Myers, and you'll be meeting Ben. So we've got a broad-based committee of people And they have two jobs. Their two jobs are, number one, to help us get the message out, the accurate message out to everyone that's concerned. And then their job is then to receive recommendations from others of someone that maybe we should consider. So that's their two jobs. And they would then, based on recommendations, they would determine whether they want to vet that person or include that person in interviews, or where we would go, where we would take that. So I'll serve as an advisor to that committee. Bob Jackson will serve as an advisor to the committee. And then we have an outside resource, Alan Phillips, who has been an advisor to me and to the advancement department of this school for a long time, and regarding publicity and how to accurately and how to get the right message out there. And he's helped us with that through the years, and he's going to help this transition committee to try to get the right message out to the right people at the right times. So that's kind of how it goes. Bob? There is a website, and on that website, in the next few days, there will be a way that you can do that. We'll do it online, but of course, you could talk to Bob Crockett, Gary Walker, one of the elders, and you could make your recommendation in person if you care to. But it would be better to go through the process that we've set up on that website and make that recommendation. Yes, sir.
Would you envision you president being alumnus of the school?
You know, that would be a very logical thing. Most everything that I read about transitions in nonprofit organizations says that 80% of the time when an outsider is appointed to lead a nonprofit, the learning curve of knowing the culture and knowing all that's involved in that organization is so steep that 80% of the time they are short-term and they're not very successful. So bottom line would be, yeah, an alumnus, maybe even an insider, maybe even someone that's already a part of the organization, would make sense. But we're not going to limit it to that. I mean, God may have someone in mind that knows our values, shares our mission, that maybe not be may not be an alumnus of this school. So we don't want to limit it to that, but that's probably a pretty logical thought. Okay? Yes, Ed? Yes. That document is called the Profile of the Next President of SIBI, and that profile is on the website. So you're welcome to make recommendations, but my recommendation to you is you read the profile before you make that recommendation, because this person has a big job to do in the next generation, and that profile will help to guide that. Yes, sir, C.L.
You've been the key man
Well, there are several things involved in that, Brother Thomas, and that's a very good observation or question. Number one, I would hope that the foundation that has been laid here would serve to give him a solid footing to stand on, number one. And I will be here to advise, to mentor, to encourage, to counsel. Now, that point man is going to have to be that. He's going to have to be the guy that makes the big decisions, the hard decisions, calls the shots, that sort of thing, in the final analysis. But I would think that we need to have a relationship like Klein and I had a relationship, so that we could sit down and visit about challenges, and he would be the kind of man that would be humble enough to seek advice from those that have been down a few roads already. So I plan to be an influence, but I don't want to interfere. And that's there's a difference there. Okay? I hope that answers the question. Well, our time is up, but just kind of be aware that that this is not a crisis mode. This is not, nothing's wrong, nothing's bad. The school is healthy. We're moving forward in good ways, but we just want a great future for decades to come, and so we want to put the right person in place to help us get there. Okay? Charles?